This video blog is about a few little things, but it is mainly about post-traumatic stress disorder. And I think it's an important topic to talk about because not a lot said about it. Go ahead and Google it. Not a lot. Not a lot. So I have talked about how I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, and I have, reoccurring dreams, not nightmares, of reliving my experience over and over again and them pronouncing me dead. It is awful. I wake up drenching in sweat. It is just, I wondered, is this gonna go away? And as time went on, it got quiet. And so I thought, well, this is great. Maybe I don't have it, maybe this is just, So I noticed that, they started coming back, and I started kind of figuring out, like, what is making these come? Is this random, or is there some common factor? Which I've told myself I've got to stop analyzing things, but I have to analyze some things because I am trying to gather data for myself so I am aware, and maybe it might help other people. But I have noticed that when I am like going through like life changes or stress, that seems to trigger a bad response. So I was going through a lot of work stress and so forth, and the nightmares came back, but that's not it. New occurrences have been happening, and I haven't really quite talked about it because I didn't want to like say it and put it out there, because I was hoping that these were one-offs and wouldn't happen again. But they are happening, and they're becoming more persistent. So I am going to talk about it. So one afternoon I got up, and I had to go to our bedroom to go get something. And I walked past our second bathroom, and all of a sudden it was like a flash, and it was a like trigger, and it was me like remembering like crawling on on the ground, like army crawling to the bathroom as I was projectile vomiting after that rubber band snapped in my head. And it just was like such a weird experience to walk past that bathroom door, and all of a sudden that just like popped up. And I was just kind of, it left me shaking, like, this can't happen. I've always got to walk past this door. This can't happen. So I walk by it again. I'm fine because, I'm like being more cognizant, and also I'm, also trying to like internalize what just happened here. I've never had a reaction like that before. So I had to, run an errand. So I walked down our stairs, and the staircase is very steep. It's very steep. And when I was walking down the stairs, all of a sudden flash, another memory like triggered where I after I was in the bathroom and had made my calls, I had that rush of adrenaline that, allowed me to get up and hurry up and, I don't even know how I even could do this, but, hurry up and get down those stairs because I knew once the EMTs arrived, I mean, that would take forever for them to get a stretcher up. And, you know, as soon as that rubber band snapped, I knew that was a ruptured aneurysm. So I know time is of essence. So whatever I need to do, save my time, go to the stairs. So that popped in my head, like just like the memory of that, and me waiting at the bottom of the steps and I had the door open and like it was really cold and snowy. And it's like I could feel that cold air like hit me. Like I could feel it. And it was just like, and then it was like all of a sudden I could hear like the little radio sound, dispatch, like hearing. And it just really freaked me out, so I was like kind of like, you know, off guard. Like I don't know. I got in the car, I drove, and it was like I just was like, this is so strange. Like what is going on? Another one. Um Now we do live really close to the hospital. I live close to a St. Luke's hospital. They don't do major traumas, so they actually transferred me to their downtown St. Luke's. Those were the ones that saved my life. The one up the street is the one that I had to argue with, but it's nice to have a hospital right by you. And we have the fire department and the police station right by us. So, bonus for insurance, right? But, so you hear sirens. You get so used to it. I mean, it doesn't even faze you. In fact, you can even determine which one's the fire truck, which one's the EMT, and which one's the cop. So I heard sirens and it just made my like heart start palpitating and like my stomach start sinking, and then I just was like going into this mode of like I almost like a panic attack type situation. And I'm like, so I'm hearing these sounds and I was like, oh God, this is awful. And then since we live close to them, another day I was driving and, the EMT was going past me, and all of a sudden it was like I just started like crying. I was just like crying and I was reliving like everything all over again, and I was picturing myself in the back of the ambulance, and I could smell like the smells in the ambulance, like everything. And it was like I could hear like there's like it sounds like chains. I don't know like if you can remember being in the back of that ambulance, but when they drive, like there's like this chain sound or whatever. And so I could hear that, and all that from an ambulance driver going right past me. And it was just so like powerful, like of it just like really doing a number on me. So the other part is I've been having to get blood work done. And since St. Luke's is right up the street, I went up to St. Luke's and used their lab. And I went in there, and soon as I walked through the doors, I started like picturing the entire ordeal. Like it was like it hit me like it was playing out in my head the entire time. When I walked into the lab station, like I couldn't even write down my name hardly. I felt shaky, and I sat down, and this like sweet old lady, you know, was looking at me with her eyes, since we can't see each other's mouths. Um, she could tell I was pained, and she was looking at me because it was just like I was just in such torture, and I think she probably thought I was like freaking out about getting my blood drawn, and like you don't even know what's going on in my head. But just like her like compassionate look kind of calmed it down. But I was like, okay, this better be a one-off also. And I couldn't shake it. Like it just really consumed my thoughts. And I just didn't want to tell anyone. Like I tell my mom everything, and I didn't even tell her about this. I haven't even told my husband. I've not told anyone about it, just because it's so weird and random, and I don't know. It's like you know, like it's one of those situations where it's like, if you haven't been through it, like you're not gonna understand it. Like if a war vet were to tell me about their post-traumatic stress disorder, like I can't understand it. Like we might both have it, but it's totally different. I mean, theirs is more horrific. I can't even imagine. But that, it's just, if you've not experienced it, you're not going to understand it. And then there's another level of like how severe certain things are. So I think troops are way up there, and people have been like violently attacked too. So there's like so I kind of felt I feel ashamed that I even have post-traumatic stress disorder from this, because I lived. And two, I mean, there's people that have gone through much more hell and back, and so why am I like, I don't know. That's why I'm kind of guarded when I talk about it, because I don't want to I'm afraid someone is going to call me out and say, oh, please. So it's just scared. So I just don't often like to talk about it. I talk about it, with the right qualified professional about it. They only know about the nightmares. I do have an appointment coming up soon where I will be bringing this up. Because I was sitting on the couch too a couple of nights ago, and it hit me again, and it was like it was almost like the whole thing, like just like replaying over and over and over again, and it was on a loop. And I'm like trying everything I can. I'm like, okay, let's read a book. Let's read a book. Let's read a book. Couldn't even, words were like a blob. Couldn't even read. That's how scrambled my mind was with this. I'm like, okay, take out the stress ball. So I was squeezing the stress ball. Well, I think I almost destroyed it. You know, um, this was really, just, it was just awful. I was just like, why is it coming up? So, and so the reason why this is a topic for tonight, if there, something was off on my blood work, and just to make sure that it wasn't some kind of fluke or something, whatever, they had me go back in to to give blood again for a certain lab test. I think I had, I don't know, like 9 labs drawn, like to test for all these things. And so I walked in again, and it hit me all over again. And I was just like a bumbling fool, like, and this time, like, there was no one, I wasn't waiting, they were able to take me straight in, so I didn't have time to collect myself. So, and it was the same woman that poked me before, and she could tell I was not all there. So I was just like, I mean, what do you say? What do you say? Like, sorry, I'm this hospital triggers me. Do you go to another hospital and that's gonna help? No, I think all hospitals are gonna seem that way to me. It just represents where something happened. Maybe this particular hospital is in particular triggering, because this was the one where I had to argue with them to get me a CT scan, because they're like, no, you're just having migraines. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Get me that CT scan now. And yelling. The other thing is with the labs that I had done the first round a couple weeks ago, my phone updates me and lets me know, your lab results are in. So I'm looking at that, and this probably is, now that I'm talking about it out loud, although no, because the other stuff occurred before this, but I think it's exacerbated because I was able to access all my records, and I read through everything from initial encounter all the way up to current on what happened. And when I was reading, there was some stuff that I didn't even know happened, that I didn't realize that was bad. I didn't realize how touch and go it was at some points. So I think that it exacerbated everything for me, because the other stuff happened previous to that. So no, it can't be that, but I think that made it more prevalent. I'm sorry. Sometimes it takes a bit for me to search for my words. So I'm like, stress playing a factor, with, the nightmares, but I'm just like, what is up with the, almost like you're walking by a crime scene or something, what is this? And why is that happening now? Why wasn't it happening before? Like, why all of a sudden, when I am walking past that bathroom, that I'm like reliving things? Why is it when I'm sitting on the sofa and I could be watching a show and, with my husband, and I'm internally in hell thinking about it and trying to not let on, like, hey, I'm having a total meltdown in my head right now because I'm reliving my situation. There are certain sounds too that, um, like there's like a slamming sound, like of the ambulance, like that sounds like that. And I just it like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like this really awful, like, um ugh, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. It's like when something is like so underneath your skin, it just makes you like, like this feeling sharp, like this feeling. I don't know how to really explain it that well. I'm sorry, I'm not doing it justice on how it is, but so I I am trying. I'm baffled. I'm really, really baffled. And I really can't wait until my next visit to try to sort this out. Like, and so I'm like, you know what? Like, I never really have looked up post traumatic stress disorder like in the daytime. Like, I've looked it up as in nightmares. And once I mean, there's no information. I mean, it is, if there is one thing the stroke world needs to do, is, I get your content is about prevention, which is great, but sometimes things happen. But when people are trying to find like information about like different outcomes for people, that would be great to have. And I think I complain about it on several video blogs and blogs, that there is just not enough info in there. For some reason, the emotional side is out. Now, the stroke organization in the United States, they acknowledge the different emotions that you may go through and tell you who to contact, but like nothing like, kind of going into it. And, so I'm like, just like going down the list, and I'm like, wow, okay. So I go to Cleveland Clinic. That's like my next go-to. Meh, not that much. Go to Mayo. Not that much. John Hopkins. Not that much. The UK, props to them. They have been my medical go-to for everything. When I was diagnosed with POTS, hardly anything out there for the United States on POTS, but the UK had everything. I'm like, wow, wish we had this information, but thankfully for the web that I can get that access. Why don't we have this? So the UK does touch on it a bit further and kind of goes, but not quite in detail. I had to go down a lot of rabbit holes, and finally I found research papers, and I'm like, this is what you got to do if you are curious about something. look up research journals, and that's where you're going to get your information from. So if you understand the jargon that they're speaking, read it in full. They do put it in layman's terms too, to make it easier for you to understand. But I was reading about post-traumatic stress disorder with stroke, and they said that it's recognized that it is something that happens, but the researchers were quite stunned that there has not been that much research into it, like studies about it. So they're like kind of grasping at straws of, coming up with something. And, they said that, maybe, in recent years has there finally been some headway of researching in that. And I think that is in part of effort of, a lot of foundations out there lobbying to get grants for research to have that information. So thank you to all of those organizations out there that are fighting and lobbying, and that's what they're doing. They're getting grants for these people to do this type of research. So in it, they said that there's confusion because there's PTSD and then there's post-traumatic stress disorder. And PTSD is post-stress depression. And sometimes people with post-traumatic stress disorder are lumped into PTSD. And within the DSM-5 criteria, they list out PTSD and then post-traumatic stress disorder. And so that way you could have a clear path to see the categories, and you have to meet at least like X amount to fit in one of those. So very clear mine was post-traumatic stress disorder when I was reading it. And then a bingo moment happened. When I was reading it, they said that they found that people who had an SAH stroke had the highest level of post-traumatic stress disorder. And I was like, that's what I had. I had SAH. And I'm like, now I am very intrigued, because they said like there just is not enough like information, like background, like it's reported SAH and post-traumatic stress disorder in combination, but I think because probably people seeking help are not, that's their private information, so it's not going to be shared for academics unless someone consents to it. And so there's probably a lot of people out there that have, post-traumatic stress disorder and are seeing someone and being treated, but they're just kind of saying, based on the data of what's reported, those are intertwined with each other and not so much with the other strokes. And I am so interested in this that like now I want to make it like a pet project, or ask my doctor about it, like, have you heard anything about that? And I'm like, so what can be done to push the movement to get further information for them to figure out, like, why is it that SAH stroke victims have a higher level of post-traumatic stress disorder than the other strokes. And and then I was thinking, well, maybe it's age, maybe because I'm younger, it's more traumatic for me. But they said age wasn't really a factor. But they did say, of course, women are more likely than men for it. As per usual, women are always more likely than anything emotionally wise. So it's just something that, like, I was just, it really, like, kind of was like, okay, stumbled across something. This is well known with SEH. So now I'm wondering how many more of my SEH people out there are also having post-traumatic stress disorder, or do you even know that you have it? Like, maybe you do and don't know. So or you might think you have post-traumatic stress disorder. You might have PSD. I don't know. PSD is like a long, huge list. However, post-traumatic stress disorder is a little bit severe. So I kind of accepted the nightmares, in conclusion of this part. I've accepted the nightmares that come. Okay, I'm used to it. And I have nightmares all the time. Now, having nightmares of something that really did happen, but having a different outcome, that I don't have, but started after I had my stroke. But I got so used to it that, like, when it first happened, I was sweating. And then it's just like, yeah, right, Groundhog Day. We die this time. And I've brought up that I have lucid dreaming techniques down. It's something I had to learn because I have frequent nightmares. And I'm able to get up and, kind of snap and reconfigure where we're going. But it doesn't take away that, that came up. So I, got used to that. Then it went away. And then I was like, okay, I'm stressed out. So whatever. But these new things that are popping up where it's in the daytime and it's like walking past something, sitting, hearing a sound, seeing something, smells, everything. Like, there's triggers now that are just sending, my heart is just racing, my mind is racing. And then I'm like, feel like I'm about ready to, like, have another aneurysm because I'm like flipping out. And but you would never really be able to tell because it's so internal that I'm keeping it internal so much, which is so bad. But how often can someone hear about it? Really, I wear myself out. I don't want to wear anyone else out. So just something new. But I'm curious. I'm sure there's probably other journals. I probably just, like, tipped the iceberg on, like, what's out there with journals. So my advice is, if you're ever curious about things, go and read research journals. That's where you're going to get your best information, because you're going to get more information about, how many people were in a study, what did they find, what was the age range, and get that information. Sometimes you might stumble across one where, like the one I did, where it's like, we only have a little to go off of because, like I said, someone's got to consent to really give more information about their study. So they're just kind of going off statistics based off of, in the United States, reporting ICD-10 codes and so forth, and, demographics and so forth. And but they did also mention that social determinants of health also determine post-traumatic stress disorder, so socioeconomic type situations, like insurance for some reason, if you don't have insurance and you're not treated, it can I don't really know the connection there, but I'm assuming because you don't have insurance and not getting help, it's not helping. But that's not explaining, if you don't have insurance, that's not the cause for post-traumatic stress disorder. That is a determinant of not getting better. To me, that's the way I view it. So outreach programs, if you're in a rural area, you're not getting help. So I think it's more like looking at not the whys, but how it's not being addressed and worked on. That's kind of what I took from that, because if it's socioeconomic and everything, and just there's just not a lot of, you live in an area where you just don't have access to all these resources, you're kind of stuck. So I get that point, but that's not the cause for post-traumatic stress disorder. That's kind of what I was questioning about when I was reading that. So, but I suggest read the journals. It's good information. I mean, these stroke, American Stroke Foundation, all these, reputable hospitals, they're going to give you they're going to give you some information, but, they're not going to give you the full thing, because if you think you have something, come to our clinic for thousands of dollars, and we'll try to get to the bottom of this. So this is why we have to support any little foundation out there that you see, because they're the ones that do all the hard work and go lobby to get grants, to get funding, all sorts of stuff. So like I said, the B Foundation is one of my favorite. They're tackling brain aneurysms, so that's a great one. So pretty much that was my topic, was post-traumatic stress disorder, just randomly seeping in during the day. I don't know why. I'm trying to figure it out. Have an appointment with my doctor, which is the appropriate thing to do to discuss it, figure it out. Something I might have to deal with for the rest of my life. Things just are not always going to be perfect, but techniques to reverse the thinking. And if it is stress, then dear God, I really got to manage my stress levels. They are way out there. This is probably why Bloodwork was all sorts of messed up, because I am all sorts of out there. So, good reason why I don't have a kid. I'd probably stress the heck out with a kid. I just really would. So, but that's my video topic. If you guys have gone through this, have any tips, let me know. If you're also curious and want to, and look into it also and kind of run things past each other, go to my website, brainstrokevoyage.com, and drop me an email and let me know what you think. And or if you're going through post stroke depression, what you're going through with that too, because that's a heavy topic too. I mean, it's depression. That's awful. Any kind of emotional journey you go through is just awful, especially if it's ongoing. Anxiety, depression, and the list goes on and on. So, but post-traumatic is just not really out there. So, but I do ask you guys, go and do just a simple search. Google emotions after stroke. Look at the list. Click on it. See what kind of information you get. Then try to get a little more creative and put up a few more things and look at what you get. It's awful, guys. It's awful. I have said it and I will say it a million times over. There is not enough resourcing online for people to access to get the information that they're looking for. A lot of people are finding each other to talk and get more information, or there's people out there like me and others, or whatever, trying to push out their journey, and that way someone can come stumble across it, hopefully. I'm probably on like page 15, and they can watch it and be like, okay, wow, I've gone through that. So it's just keep pushing out the narrative, but there just needs to be more literature out there for someone to read, not just like, yeah, you're gonna go through this. Go see these people. Again, well, here's where that socioeconomic and insurance, maybe you can't afford that stuff. Maybe you just want to read about it. Provide the information. It's not hard. It is not hard. And I volunteer myself to any little study they want to do. I volunteer myself. I don't know how you volunteer. That's the other thing. How do you volunteer? I would like to volunteer. What are you studying? What do you want? I will give it all. Talk about emotions, how I'm doing, how I'm progressing, how everything's changed for me, how I perceive things, my memory, what I've retained in my memory, which is quite interesting. You think you'd want to study that? How does work never leave, like memory-wise? Why is that just ingrained in there, but other things are like floating around? And, I'm always having to look to the side, look down, pause. That means I've lost where I was. My memory's gone. So if you see me look down, pause, whatever, I lost it. And I'm trying to quickly get back on track. So I hope you find this beneficial, and I hopefully will have something else, I always do, to talk about. Might try to do something a little fun. On Instagram, I'm starting to do videos, short videos of humor, just to add humor into life, and saving the video blogs for like you know, the deep stuff, but, you know, maybe mix it up while I'm talking about the deep stuff. So, because if you stumble across this on YouTube and you don't see me on Instagram, you don't see my personality. So, I'm not like wound tight, you know, type person. Like, you know, I'm goofy and, you know, like to have fun. So, or joke. I joke quite a bit. But hopefully this information helps. If you have information to give me, please do. It would be great. I'm gonna do some more research on journals on it. And like I said, I see my doctor, I think next week or in 2 weeks. And I'm gonna go over this with him. So I've been quite a case study for him. So, anyways, have a great day, week, month, whenever I talk to you next. I am preparing for severe thunderstorms that are about ready to roll. So I can see the weather monitor ahead of me, and I can see that they are about ready to come in. So I'm glad I'm doing this now because it's about ready to get very noisy, and I am excited because I love thunderstorms. So that is positive. So take care, everyone.